You're going to like this one. It is chicken cordon bleu. A little different, but it's got chicken, it's got ham, it's got cheese, it's got all the stuff you like. So check this out. Well, the first thing I need is the chicken. So I got to go into my freezer, pull out, I had 3 chicken breasts. I'm going to pull them out, put them on a baking sheet, and let them start thawing out. Probably give them 3 hours. They're not completely thawed yet. That is another baking sheet with parchment paper on it because that's where the chicken's going once we're done cutting it up. Now, you got several options. You can cut it into strips like that, or you can cut it into chunks. I was kind of toying with just cutting them into the small strips and leaving them like that, but I like the smaller chunks. It's just easier to eat. And I know even trying it this way, making the big chicken strips, I'm just not going to like it at the end of the day. I started, you can see here, I'm kind of, well, you know, they're okay. I know they're going to shrink a little bit. When it was all said and done, I ended up chopping them down into bite-sized pieces. Yeah, old habits die hard. But if you like big chunks or you like long strips, hey, feel free, because, I mean, the chicken's a chicken. And that works out to, I'm going to guess, a little over a pound, maybe even closer to 1.5 pounds worth of chicken breasts. And if you want to put a little more in, I mean, this recipe is pretty flexible. Go ahead. Our chicken is cut up. Okay, we're going to add a bit of olive oil, flavored olive oil actually. Birthday present from my little sister. Thanks, Michelle. This is from where she works, Cindy's in Kingsville. Very good. My go-to oil now. So while we're at it, we're going to throw a little bit of poultry seasoning, because it is chicken after all. And while we're at it, a little bit of garlic powder. And you know what? I didn't put any pepper on it. That probably comes later. So into the oven it goes. 325. I think I gave it about 10 minutes. I pulled it out, flipped it over. I want to make sure I got both sides. Now, I didn't season the other side. I figured there was lots on the top. I made sure it was all separated because, you know, that's a pain when you pull it out of the oven. Back in it goes for another maybe 10 minutes. I wanted it mostly cooked. I wasn't concerned if it was completely cooked because it is going back in the oven. So here we are, 1 bunch of green onions. And we'll chop them all down nice and neat right down to the end. Looks good. We have to get this into a container. There you go. About a cup's worth of green onions. Next up is mushrooms. Mushrooms. About 1/2 pound. I mean, use your judgment. Cut up in slices. And there you go, just over a cup. So here's our chicken out of the oven. Looks pretty good. And before we throw it all back in, I'm going to check the chunks for the right size and that, but we'll set that aside for now. We also need ham because obviously cordon bleu, it's chicken and ham. So I've sliced a few off this chunk of ham and chopped it up into small squares. Because yeah. And the rest of the ham I'll probably use for, I'll do the same thing with. I like using that for making Hawaiian pizza, or if I'm making a quiche or an omelet with ham in it. So there you go. I think that's plenty for what we need for our casserole. We'll throw this into the container, and that's about 1.5 cups. Well, here's my food processor because the next ingredient is cornflakes, about 1.5 cups. You know what? Once it was done, I probably could have put 2.5 in. It would have been fine. And the reason we put it in the food processor is it's way too chunky. I made a potato casserole without crushing them, and it was just too much. So this way, they're crushed. You end up with about a cup-ish right there. And they're all nicely ground. It works out great. All right, we grab a bowl. In goes our cornflake crumbs. In goes some Parmesan cheese. About a third of a cup, but I ran out. I only had a little bit out of that container, so I had to go to the old standby in the fridge. It'll work out. And like I said, this mixture here is, you can play with it because we also need some butter. About a tablespoon, couple tablespoons full. And once again, if you want to play with it, put a little extra in because you really like it with butter. Throw in some margarine if you need to, or Crisco. I mean, I'm sure that would work too. Wouldn't be as flavorful, but I'm sure it would work. So we're going to take that butter, throw it in the microwave, nuke it for 30 seconds. And when it comes out, it's nice and hot and bubbly. Now you want to let it cool down just a bit, and then pour that stuff into the cornflakes. And give it a mix. Just enough to combine it all. The moisture from the butter will kind of bring the other two ingredients together. It doesn't have to be a big ball. It's okay the way it is right there. So into a container goes a half a cup of cream of mushroom soup and a third of a cup of sour cream. That's all there is after making it. You know what? If you want to put the whole thing in and a half a thing of sour cream, that'd probably work too. So there was our chicken all nice and cut up. Here's what we're going to make it in, a square baking pan. And I'm just going to grease it up. I don't want anything to really stick to it. So into the bottom goes 2/3 of our cornflake mixture. And you can see it's still pretty crumbly. That's okay, because that's really what we want. Just going to spread it around evenly on the bottom. And you can see here when I said go for a couple cups instead of a cup and a half, it doesn't quite cover it up quite as much as I would like. So I think if I would have gone to 2 cups or even 2.5 cups, I think it would have worked out a little better. But this was still okay. Next comes our chicken. This is half of the chicken that we cooked up. Now cheese. It should be shredded cheese, shredded Swiss and provolone. I had neither. I had slices, so I had to make do. That's provolone and Swiss all chopped up. Probably about 4 or 5 slices each. I wanted to make sure I covered it up as best I could. And honestly, I could have put more cheese down. Even though that looks like a lot, once it melts down, not as much as you think. Still good. Next up is our ham. Yummy. Mushrooms, all nice and evenly divided. And lastly, our green onions. Looks good so far. Now we go over to our mushroom soup and sour cream mixture and spread that out as evenly as we can. I'm trying to make sure it spreads evenly. I think I got it. That looks pretty good. Next up comes the rest of our chicken, the rest of our cheese, and top it off with the rest of the cornflakes. And there you go, that's it. Alright, so we've got to cover that up. I'm going to put it on a pan just in case it happens to spill. I don't think it will. I've had it happen where I haven't worried about it and it's spilt all over the oven. So to avoid any problems, put it on a baking tray and we're going to cover this up. Of course, one day I'll learn how to actually use tin foil. Like I've never used this stuff before. Into the oven, 325, about 45 minutes covered. And when we bring it out and take the top off, it looks kind of the same. It's starting to melt a bit. Back into the oven it goes uncovered, 15 minutes. And when it comes out, sure does smell like dinner to me. There's your chicken cordon bleu. Yummy. We threw it on a plate, and that's some good eating. Try it. You'll like it. Hey, another great recipe. I hope you'll give it a try. Leave me a comment below, one way or the other. Listen, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell because that'll tell you the next time I upload a video. Feel free to share this and any of my other videos. And thanks for stopping by and watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.